Hackathons can effectively make learning relatable for your team by providing an interactive and engaging learning experience. The process starts with a planning session where we identify a small to medium-sized business need for a prototype. Following a one-day training session, we collaborate with your team in a 2 to 3 day build session where everyone is actively involved. And by the end of your hackathon, your team has developed new skills and you will have a working prototype to show for it.
The Pragmatic Works team is excited to introduce CertXP. CertXP is not just a learning platform, it's a new horizon in technical exam preparation. Experience learning like never before, with elements of gameplay that make studying not just effective, but incredibly engaging. With our preloaded journeys, you can easily navigate through the vast array of certification options and choose the ones that align with your career goals.
Learn with the nerds, Power Automate, taking you from beginner to pro, no delay.
In our session, we will cover triggers, conditional logic, looping actions, approvals, robotic process automation, and some administrative work. I'll see you there.
Flow masters in the house, don't hesitate. Learn with the nerds, will make you elevate. Power Automate, a tool to navigate from beginner to pro. Let's collaborate. Ooh, yeah.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome to our Learn with the Nerds Power Automate Beginner to Pro. My name is Jonathan Silva, and I'm here to help you take whatever skill set you have coming into working with Power Automate and leveling that up so that you can get a nice, solid understanding on how to build and work with Power Automate for yourself. Really excited to get started here with all of you today. What we're going to do is start off with a little bit of background information, some understanding of what is Power Automate, what we're going to try to accomplish here today, and then you'll find us just building a lot in the next 3 hours that we have together. Now, before we actually get started from any of that, this is live, but at the same time, we are recording. So if you want to come back to us later on, we will have the recording available to you so that you can come back and revisit, fast forward, pause, rewind, all that good stuff if you want to completely follow along with everything that I'm doing here today. Speaking of some course files available for you to download so that if you do want to follow along, you can go ahead and access those so that you can make sure you can be doing every single click along with me. All right, so keep that in mind that we are live. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to answer every question that comes into the chat here. I'll do my very best to get as many as I can, but you can always come on back here and revisit any time you need. So to start off, a little bit of background information. Again, my name is Jonathan Silva. Here at Pragmatic Works, I'm on our Power Platform team, which means that I focus on building and working and teaching around the Power Platform every day, and really focusing on that integration within the Power Platform. What that means is I really like to teach about not just working with Power Automate or Power Apps or Power BI, Copilot Studio, Power Pages, but also how they all work together as well. And what I try to do is utilize my own personal and professional background with that. And I was a high school teacher for a decade. So as a secondary school teacher here in the US, I taught courses on European history, world history, economics, And I try to bring some of that experience here in delivering courses like this. So what you'll find with my style is I really want to explain the foundation, the core concepts, the skills, and then we'll sprinkle in all the extra knowledge on top of it. And so hopefully you'll be able to have some of that knowledge come with you as well as we go through our time here together. What I next want to go through is our agenda. So if we could take a look as I share my screen here, our agenda for today. These are the different topics that we are going to be covering. So we have our overview, which we're going to start off with, and that's kind of where we are right now. And then we'll talk about Power Automate flow triggers, the different types of triggers and the ways that we can build out flows with Power Automate. We'll also talk about how to incorporate conditional logic, working with approval flows, and then adding in a little bit of some of our advanced features like an HTML table inside of a flow. And finally, the last thing we'll do together here today is do a little bit of the administrative work, the organizational side of things, so that you can make sure that whatever you're building with the Power Platform, you are working with some best practices and setting yourself up and your team up for success in the future. So as we go through, what we're going to focus on, of course, here today is Power Automate. But it's also worth noting where Power Automate lives and kind of how it's used. Power Automate is one of the 5 standalone applications that's part of the Power Platform from Microsoft. The Power Platform is this ecosystem, if you will, to help us as business users go ahead and accomplish whatever tasks we have with the data that we are working with. And it provides us a single place to do all of that work. So we have the collection of Power BI, Power Apps, Copilot Studio, Power Pages, and of course, Power Automate together so that it makes whatever we're trying to do just a lot easier. And I love this graphic that I put together because it shows that Power Automate is at the core of the Power Platform because we can connect into all these other services and help us automate specific processes that come with those other applications. Now, for us here with Power Automate, we are going to focus on Power Automate in the cloud today. That is us going to make.powerautomate.com and building out flows that connect into data that have an open or a live API connection. So we can use our connectors available through the Power Platform to pass data back and forth between Power Automate and all the other services we want to use. The other version of Power Automate is Power Automate Desktop. That is a completely different service that we have on our machine. We download this desktop application to our computer, which allows us to use some robotic process automation to help us accomplish tasks that work with browser navigation or browser recording or our desktop-based applications without those API connections. If you want to learn more about that, I did one of these events just about a year ago covering Power Automate Desktop. And you can go ahead and check that out and see some of the nice features that come with that. Now, as we go through our content here today, one of the things I want to point out right away is we actually have one of these Learn with the Nerds that we did about 2 years ago. This event is meant to build off of that one. We are going to have completely different use cases, and we're going to see there's a completely different UI available with Power Automate in the cloud since then. So we want to give you the most updated features available if you want to go ahead and build for yourself. Now, specifically working with Power Automate in the cloud. Again, we're talking about on our browser at the website, make.powerautomate.com. What we're going to do there is to use our own skill set to help us be more productive in what we want to do on a daily basis. Essentially, Power Automate was created to help us as individual business users to be more productive with our time so that we could automate any type of rule-based, task-based process so that you just don't have to spend the 5, 10, 15 minutes doing that task anymore. Maybe that task is looking at data and sending an email for certain things, or updating data, or you're doing some type of scheduling event, or whatever you're looking at there. Power Automate was created for us to go ahead and handle that so we can focus on business critical issues, things that actually take the human brain to analyze and to put together to make our life that much easier. So what we're going to try to do here today is to see some of the different ways that we can use Power Automate to help us be more productive. Now, when we get to Power Automate in the cloud, this is going to be some of the navigation options that we have when we get there. On the left-hand side of our window, you'll be able to see how we can access all of the flows that we create in the My Flows area. We can create new flows using that plus create area there. See some of our flow templates that were already created for us to try to access and build off of, and then go into some of the other action items available to get a little bit more advanced into deeper working with the technology. So as we go through the build process here today together, we're going to go ahead to a bunch of these different locations so that you have a little bit more experience and comfort working with Power Automate. Now, starting off with Power Automate, when we go to build a workflow in the cloud, the first thing that we as designers of our automated workflow need to think about is, how is the flow going to begin? What is the triggering event or thing that occurs to start the process? So when we work with Power Automate in the cloud, we always think about triggers that set the flow in motion. And when you design that and choose the trigger that you want, everything else will follow from there. Now, for us, as we work with triggers, there are 3 different types of triggers available in a cloud flow. Consequently, we have 3 different types of cloud flows to go with them. So the 3 triggers that we have, okay, the first and most widely used, the most popular of all of them, is an automated cloud flow with what we call an event trigger. The event trigger means that something outside of Power Automate starts the process. So it might be when I get a new email, or when a new file is created in OneDrive, when a new message comes in inside of Teams with a specific tag, or something that happens for us outside of the Power Automate flow itself will then initiate the workflow process from there. The next type of trigger we have is an instant cloud flow with what we call a manual trigger. What I like to think of is as a button trigger, where you, as the user, physically choose by pushing a button to run the flow. Now, one of the great things about this is that button can be in a lot of different locations. It could be a button directly from Power Automate. It could be a button inside of Power Apps. It could be on our phone with the Power Automate mobile app. It could be something from Teams or SharePoint where you select a specific chat or a record, and then you can run the flow from there. So essentially, it's kind of like an a la carte. You decide when the flow runs. And then finally, the third type of flow and trigger that we have with Power Automate in the cloud is a scheduled cloud flow with a recurrence trigger. That schedule is something that we set as the user. We can determine if it's daily, hourly, weekly, every minute, every few seconds, every few days, whatever we want for that specific schedule. In fact, we can even be specific to specific times of days, and we can choose the time zone as well within that schedule. So it really lets us go ahead and set up the flow to run as we want and when we want for whatever purpose we're looking at that time. So when we think about Power Automate, once we determine how the flow begins, the next stage is, what are the actions we want with it? Now, for some of us, that can be pretty difficult to figure out, especially if you've never used Power Automate before. Luckily, with Power Automate in the cloud, we have flow templates available to help us learn. I really like using templates as a learning tool so that if I'm working with something I just haven't done before or some type of task that I'm just not quite used to doing, you can go navigate over to the template section within Power Automate to go ahead and see what is out there for me to kind of use. That's something that's pre-built, already ready to go. Or do I want to see what someone else did, take what they did, edit it, tweak it, change it for my specific needs, and then go ahead and save it for myself? There are a lot of different templates available for us, and we can search through our templates by the category, by the the actual task we want to see if there's something out there available for us to just try right away. So you'll have that as a nice background and nice experience for you. Now, when we work with our templates, you'll see they're all pre-built. But we also have another feature available to help us figure out what to do. And that's using some of the new AI that comes with, we all know about Copilot, all of that coming here with Power Automate in a feature called Describe It to Design It. This feature provides us the ability to enter in a prompt, just like you would do with your normal Copilot and maybe ChatGPT experience. And in this prompt, you just describe the process you want to automate. The more descriptive you are, the easier it's going to be to create it for you. And then once you go ahead and describe the process, you'll see that Power Automate will automatically suggest a trigger and a series of actions for us, steps, if you will, for us to go ahead and complete the flow from there. All we need to do is review that, edit them, tweak them, say, nope, I don't like this one. Give me another suggestion. If we like what we see, we can go ahead and establish connections there. And then from the next point on, we just edit, run the flow. We save it, we let it go, and then we exactly get what we want, or we can change it up if we need when we go ahead and use that. And so what we're going to do here today is we are going to explore Power Automate templates and describe it to design it so that you have a nice foundation of like, how do I use this? Where can I get started? Then from there, what you'll notice is when we build out our flow, things come nice and simple from there. So what we'll do after that is we'll build out some custom flows as well. When we work with Power Automate and our new designer, it's going to look a little bit like this. You'll notice that the flow trigger will always be at the top of the screen in our designer, followed by the series of actions or steps that we add in there. These actions are all going to be using our connectors within the Power Platform so that you can authenticate directly into those sources and then retrieve information from them or send information to them. We have a lot of different actions to work with. And for us here today, what we're going to focus on are all of what we call the standard connectors with the Power Platform. That means you will not need a premium license or elevated license or anything else outside of what you already have with Microsoft 365 to follow along with everything that I'll be doing with you here today. So hopefully that means that everybody can follow along as much as you can. Once we go ahead and work with our actions, we can add in other controls and other features inside of our flow, like a loop before each or apply to each loop to iterate over a table or a list-like structure. We can even add in conditional logic as well. So what we're going to try to do is give each and every one of you a nice solid foundation into the design structure, the ideas, the logic of working with Power Automate, and really focus on how to think about a designer. What are the things I need to think about when I want to build out a flow? And then from there, build that out step by step, because that is probably about 75% of the task or the skill that you have with any new technology is how do I know what to even think about or what am I trying to do from this step? So that's going to be a big focus for us coming up here in just a little bit. And then as we focus on conditional logic, we'll take a look at this condition control is one of the most widely used actions for us to get right into it and really control what happens when we get data passed in our flow. So we're going to use some simple or complex logic inside of this control so that we can ensure that no matter what happens with the data that's being presented to us, our flow can be dynamic. We can evaluate something that's there based upon that evaluation in this condition, go down one path or the other, so that you're just setting up one flow in a lot of cases to accomplish many things for that specific scenario. So you don't have to have multiple versions. One thing can handle a lot of different situations that you have. So for us, what we'll do is work with all of that building into a big aha moment, and that is going to be working with approvals. So we'll have some conditions, we'll have some other work getting us into a Power Automate approval, which is going to be such a great thing for us to work with, and the reason why many of us come into Power Automate. With our approval, we can now have an approval of a process, of a document, of an action, whatever it is, to be automated for us so that it just goes out. We don't have to design it every single time. We let Power Automate do the work for us. And then once we go ahead and have somebody interact with that approval, we can check what they said, accept, reject, yes, no, whatever it might be. Based upon that connection within our conditional logic, we can go ahead down the next step. So we have a lot to cover here today, which means in the cloud, and then take a look at how we can build out our own flows. So if you would like to follow along with me, where we are going to start off with is going into Power Automate. Now you can get to Power Automate in the cloud a couple different ways. The easiest way for you, if you've never gone to Power Automate in the cloud before, is just by doing just a Bing or a Google search and searching for Power Automate and going to the site here. And then you could choose sign in up here at the top. So long as you have a work or school Microsoft account, a Microsoft 365 account, you're going to be all ready to go. You can either go from this site, or if it's more convenient for you, you can also use Microsoft 365, like you navigate to get Outlook or Teams or OneDrive in the cloud. If you go here, you can then go down to your apps at Microsoft 365. And in your apps at Microsoft 365, if you just scroll down a little bit right in the productivity area, you will be able to find Power Automate. It's right here. You can go navigate directly to that and get to Power Automate. So that's what I'm going to click on. And that is exactly where we're going to go to start off with. Now, as we go to Power Automate, some of the things to know about when we're building and working with cloud flows is, where are we saving them? Where do they go when I make something? Well, when we build anything in the Power Platform, Power Apps and Power Automate specifically, what we have available to us are things called environments. An environment is essentially a storage container. It's a place to keep objects, to store things, flows, apps, bots, tables, reports, connections, stuff. For us here today, we want to make sure that we are in an environment that we can have access to and to store things in. Now, all of us have a default environment at our company. For us here at Pragmatic Works, we've renamed our default environment to Personal Productivity because it allows us to know that individual users, we are going to use this specific environment to just help us do things to make our lives better. Essentially what Personal Productivity, or your default environment, is, it's a nice shared storage container. You go to, everyone has storage containers. We're down here in Florida. We got them all over the place. You go find one, you open up the door, or open the door, and there's stuff inside. Essentially, that's what's here. But it's a shared one for everybody in the organization. So you can build in that if you have space and you have access. Or what I'm going to do is use my very own storage container, my very own environment, to help me build things here today. So that is a developer environment that allows me to have access to Dataverse, this Azure SQL database for the Power Platform, to do a little bit more of our advanced things and some of more of the premium features that we have with Power Automate. You don't necessarily have to use your very own developer environment. You can use your company default if you like for today, because everything we are going to be building and working with here today is all going to come with what we call our standard connectors, with just generally your Office or Microsoft 365 license. So I'm going to go into that storage facility, that environment, to go ahead and build out my workflows. And then we're going to go ahead right in here. Now for me, what I want to do is start off with here today, taking a look at some templates. After we look at templates, we're just going to get building from that point on. All right. So to do this, if you go to the left-hand side in our navigation, we're going to select templates all the way on the left there. Once you choose templates, go ahead and click on it. It's going to take you to this screen here so that you can see all of the templates available from Power Automate. These templates are pre-built flows. that have been uploaded and added by either the Microsoft community, by Microsoft itself, or Power Automate, so that you can go ahead and just try things out and start to use them. One of the great things about templates is you could just come in here and explore and search. You can filter down our template list by category at the top. So you might say, oh, you know what? I actually want something to work with Visio. I'll just click on Visio. There are some of the templates there. Or I want to see some remote work ones because maybe I work remotely and, a lot of us are doing that now. So you can see all the ones here. If you go through our templates and just sort through here, you can see them filtered down, and you can also search. If you're searching, just keep note of it is going to be filtered by whatever selection you have. So if I search right now, it's going to search through the approval templates. Okay, if I want to see everything, I'll just go over to the all section here, and then you can just search for something that you want. Maybe I want to search for something that works with Microsoft Teams, or maybe Power BI, or maybe something very specific. You just do that here, hit enter, and there is your search. Now, everything is going to be filtered down by Microsoft Teams. And one of the cool things about templates that we have is that you can see exactly the data sources or the connectors being used for those templates with the little icon. In this case, the one I have highlighted is using Microsoft Forms, Planner, and Microsoft Teams. Those icons there let me know the connections I need in order to use this template flow. Others, you could see, they have different connectors available. And what it also provides you is who created the template, the type of flow, the type of trigger. Is it automated? Is it instant? Is it scheduled? And the number on the bottom left, the bottom right, that number is essentially how many downloads we have for that specific template. How many times people have come in, clicked on it, saved it, and are using that template flow for themselves. So you'll be able to take a look at some of the more popular ones just by the higher number you have. So let's say, in our case here, that we want to post the message in Teams. But I want to post a message in Teams to give me just a notification that, I got a new email from somebody or from a specific user. Maybe I'm just not paying attention to my emails because I'm on a Teams call or I'm doing something else, and I want a quick notification to that. So I can come in here and maybe I'll say, send message in Teams on new email. And that might be too specific, or it might be exactly what I want. And you know what? It actually looks like it's too specific. So maybe I can just broaden my search. If I just search for send message in Teams, you can see here, this is us working with templates. You can broaden the searching category here, and then we can find something that works exactly for us when we get a new email or when something happens. You can see send a Teams message from Power BI, or do it from all these. You notify a user in Teams, or you have your other ones here to just help you do something specific to the scenario that you have. So you can go ahead and select something, and you can just choose one of these. Let's say I'm going to find one here. I'm just going to choose a random one. Not actually going to use it, but just see what one looks like here. Maybe I think I want to have, let me search for, I send message in Teams. That's an okay one here. And let's do this one. If I just click on it, I just picked one randomly. I'm not going to actually use it. Just see it. When you go to select the template, okay, this is the big part that I want to make sure you see is when you do it, you will get a description of a template here. Okay, what it's actually going to do. And then beneath it, it's going to tell you all of the connections you need to make. This is important because you'll see here, if it's in Microsoft 365 service, the connections should go right away. Your single sign-on is enabled here. So if you're choosing something that works with Microsoft 365, you should see these green check marks right away. If not, if it requires you to sign into something else, you will see a little green button here. It says sign in. And then you need to authenticate into whatever that connector is, whatever that service is for that purpose. So keep that in mind. When using templates, you will need to make sure you actually have access to whatever that service is or that connector is before using that template. All right, so this is a great way of viewing flows and working with flows and just seeing what's built there. However, I think there's an even better new feature available to us that is going to be way easier to use for us, especially moving forward, because we're now in the Copilot era. We're in the Chat GPT era, and we can come in here and we can go up to this home or create area to use our prompts. In the middle of our screen here, if you navigate to home, what you'll be able to see right here in this area in the middle is a place called Describe It to Design It. You'll also notice it's a nice little option we have in the Create area too. And this is where you could just put in a prompt. What do I want to accomplish? And based upon the prompt that you add in here, Power Automate, using some Copilot, will try to design a flow for you, which is even better than a template because it's more specific to exactly what you type in. So let's say, for instance, I have a Microsoft form, and every time the form gets submitted by whatever user we have, I want to send them a follow-up, a recap of what they submitted in the form, essentially a receipt of their submission. So maybe I want to send them some information if it's about a selection they make or a request they make or a schedule that they set up. Whatever it is, I want to automatically give them a receipt of that submission so they know exactly what they have for their own records. We don't get that out of the box with Microsoft Forms, but Power Automate can help us do that. So I can quite simply type into here, just describe what I want. I can say, when a form is submitted, send an email. And be broad, it could be more specific. You can even see here some suggested flow options here based on a form response. Send if conditions are met, otherwise do something else. Be more specific, be more broad. Whatever you choose, just go ahead and click generate. Because from here, what we can then see is our describe it to design it, Copilot, help us create a flow to do exactly what we want to do. Now, this is a cool feature here because you can come in and you can edit your prompt right here and just resend it if you need. You can take a look at some of the suggestions here, including the trigger and the actions that it's suggesting for us. And if you don't like it, just select right there, this isn't what I'm looking for. And then it might prompt you to try a different suggestion or try other things to help get your, the exact response that you need. But for me, this actually looks pretty good. When a new form response is submitted, get the details. I wonder why we need that, but we'll take a look, and then send an email. Seems pretty simple. It sounds pretty close to exactly what I want. So if that is the case, if that's exactly what I want, I can come here and click on next. Now, just by selecting next, it doesn't create everything yet. What it does is going to ensure that our connectors are established. And this is a big piece, just like we saw with our templates, to make sure you have access to that data. Now, for us here, we're working with a form. I actually have a form that I want to use. If you would like to use the same form that I want to use, what I've done in our course files is, if you take a look, I have a text file here, a text document with a link inside of it. Okay, it's called Learn with the Nerds, Power Automate Beginner to Pro, Microsoft Form Template Link, Meeting Request. Okay, it's a form that I'm going to use. If you would like to use the exact same one, all you need to do is open up that text document. Okay, and this link right here, copy this into your browser. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to add a new tab, and I'll just simply paste it and go directly there. And what it allows you to do is to duplicate the form that I created here, if you want to use the same one, or you just use your own. And that's one of the great things about forms is it has a lot of purpose. And you can make everything you want to do pretty easy from there. So if you want that, I have my meeting request. You can go ahead and point to it. I already have it made. So just, by the way, just click on duplicate and that'll be simple enough. It'll give you a copy of it. Okay. Now, you know what? I'll do the same thing. I'll go ahead and duplicate it here, and it'll create one for me inside of Microsoft Forms. And you'll see that it's going to same name, everything, just with the word copy in it right there. And you can rename it for yourself if you like. Okay. Now the form has been added in. It's now part of My Forms in Microsoft Forms. Really simple. This is the form that I'm going to be using for us today. Okay. I'm going to have users come fill this out. It's about a meeting request. So if you want to meet with us here at Pragmatic Works to see what we offer, go ahead and fill out this form, right? That's kind of the goal here. You can put your name, your email address, the details about the meeting, and the topic or the technology that you want to cover. Then we also have here the preferred date. If I want to see what this looks like, if you've never worked with forms before, I could just select preview right here. And this is actually the form. I could just hit start now. And this is how I can go ahead and complete the form. And I'm actually going to use this. So I'm going to get right to this page right here and pause for a second, because now we can go back to Power Automate and actually use this form in the flow that Power Automate is designing for us. So that's where I'm going to go. Go over to my other browser tab, back to Power Automate. And now I can select Create Flow because I know I have the data ready. I know I have the form ready. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to click right there. And now this is what gets created from design it to describe it. It's really great feature to just give us workflow steps, actions, triggers, anything we need for this flow to be successful, except for the exact connection to the data source. We can connect into the API, but we are actually choosing which form, which email, what's the subject, what's the body. We haven't done that yet, right? So that's what we're going to focus on here for us. Okay, so if you see here in this design canvas that we have, this little studio we have, this is the new designer here with Power Automate. On the right-hand side of our new designer, you will notice Copilot is generally available so that you can come here and you can ask it with your prompt, just like you would have Copilot if you have Copilot for your company there, or if you've ever worked with ChatGPT, the same type of prompt you put in here. Ask it to do something to help you accomplish something within the flow. It will also give you all these different actions here, and it'll help you kind of learn more about the flow there. Now, if you want to make any changes to this, all you need to do is select the box, select the action or the trigger in the middle, and on the left-hand side of your window, you'll get some details popping out. Like here with our trigger, when a new response is submitted, we need to choose which form we want to monitor for this new response. So in this drop down here, this is where we're going to go ahead and select our form. Okay, I'm going to choose this one here. My copy that I have, that's the one that's open here for the one that we were working with. And I'm going to choose it from my list. You'll see all of the forms that you've created are available here. If you create the form after starting the flow, you will need to refresh your browser. Otherwise, it just might not show up. That's something that I've noticed in myself here. If like, oh, I didn't create the form yet, but I know I want to use it. You might need to refresh the browser because it just hasn't actually seen the new form you've created. Okay, so it's something to think about there. I'll choose our meeting request copy. That is the one I have here. There's our title to acknowledge that, right? There's our meeting request. And now I don't have this invalid parameters done anymore. I can now see I'm connected to that email address. That's where the form is stored under my account. Now that we have that done, what we can do is just go here and edit the other things we have within our flow. So I've selected my trigger. Now I'm going to click on my first action, get response details. Now, this is something you absolutely need to have every single time you're working with Microsoft Forms. Microsoft Forms and Power Automate, there are only two different options for us when working with Power Automate. One is the trigger when a new response is submitted, and the other is a single action, get the details. They always go together, always and forever. You must have them in that sequence every single time you're working with a new form to work with here in Power Automate so you can get access to the answers to the questions from the form. So now we'll go ahead and here point to the same form we did at the top in our trigger. So there's our copy just in the dropdown. Nice and simple with our form ID. And then what you'll see here is the response ID for me has already been filled in. Copilot is trying to help me go ahead and build out this flow as much as possible without all the very specific details. So anything that's a little bit more broad, that knows that this is what needs to be generally put in here, Copilot's going to do it for us. And you can see here, we have the response ID added in. If I click in this area for response ID, this green box that you see for me, that was added in automatically. This is something that was added called our dynamic content. Dynamic content, what it does here with Power Automate is essentially takes any outputs generated by any action and allows us to use them in actions that follow. So that outputs turn into inputs so that we can use the data over and over dynamically throughout the rest of the flow. Not only can I use my dynamic content in the next action, but I can also use it in all other actions, just about every other action throughout the flow process as well. So that you can reuse data over and over, reevaluate data, access data multiple times throughout the flow to truly make this work in the best case for you each time. So in this case, the dynamic content that's been added in is the output from when the response is submitted, the ID of the form. I can access dynamic content to see all of whatever gets generated, all the outputs, by clicking on the little lightning bolt right there. That lightning bolt will let me know there is dynamic content available to add into this field, add into this area, so that I can just click on it, and this little pop out will give me all of the outputs that I can add in. In this case, we only have the one. That's pretty simple. I like the simplicity of that one. So that makes it easy. That use with get response details. Well, perfect. That's exactly what we want. So we had that in automatically for us. Let's move on to the next one. Now what we could do is click into our send an email step. Now this send an email step, what this is going to do, it's going to send an email from whichever account is logged in down here. It's going to use your Office 365 Outlook connection, just like you would have on your desktop app or in the cloud, and send an email from you. It's actually going to show up in your outbox too. So you can go ahead and send an email personalized from you as the creator of this flow. And yes, if you wanted to go ahead and send it on behalf of someone else or send as another person, you can absolutely do that. There's a little bit of administrative things that you need to go into to be able to do that, but you can absolutely do that. In fact, Devin Knight has a video on exactly how to do that on our YouTube channel right now. And check that out if you go to YouTube, and you'll be able to see exactly how to send an email on behalf of someone else or as another person. So we could do that there, but that's how you can see who it's coming from. Then in our email, we have to choose who we're sending it to, what the subject, and what the body is of this email. Now, I would like to send the email to whoever submitted the response. So if I come in the to field and click right here, I can either type it in and actually choose someone, just type in an email and hard code it. It always sends to this one account. Or I can add in what we have as our dynamic content so that when someone submits it, we'll go grab their email address and dynamically send it to them each time. I can do that by selecting inside of this field here and then choosing enter custom value. Once you select enter custom value, our little lightning bolt will pop back up. It's on the left-hand side this time, but there it is. There's our lightning bolt. I click on it. Here comes our dynamic content. Once more, we can use it just like before. You see all the fields now available, and you can see anything you can pass in. Now from here, we're now going to pass in data from the get response details, because this is the only action from Microsoft Forms that provides us the actual answers to the questions or some of the metadata that's captured from that specific form response. In this case, you can see here, there's a question, your email address. That's what I asked here. That's this question right here. And the reason why I asked this question is because you know as well as I do, if you've ever worked with Microsoft Forms, there's a lot of times that we have our form submissions anonymous, which means we don't know their email. We don't know who to send it to. So if I ask the question, whatever email address they put in there, that's who I can send it to. Now, technically, if we don't have an anonymous, we can collect their email. That's what's right here, their responder's email. But if they have some settings on their browser to hide all of the personal information, maybe it's a company-wide browser setting or that's a personal browser setting to hide all their information, or they're using incognito or in private browsing mode, this will show up null, show up blank, and it's just not it's not going to work for us. So I always ask, like, hey, if you want to email, what is your email address? So I'm going to pass that in right here. There's our dynamic content. All I have to do is click on it. It's added in now. And we're going to go ahead and complete the rest of this email step the same way. So I can come in here, my subject. What do I want to put my subject? Thank you for your meeting request. I don't know, something in here. And if that's the subject, I can go to the body and now address an email to the user. I can say like, hello, space. And what I can do is use the dynamic content, treat it like text, and just fill in my email. And wherever I put this little green box, in this case from forms, for my dynamic content, whatever is the answer is, it's just going to pass it right into that little spot. Essentially, you're kind of creating like a fill in the blank area for your email template that you're creating. And dynamically, every time we get a new response, it's just going to fill in that blank with whatever we point to. So I can come in here, hello, lightning bolt for dynamic content, your name. So whatever their name is, it's going to show up there. Comma, go down the line, just generate an email. Here are some details about your request. Nice and simple. Just go ahead and maybe I'll bullet point a list here so that I can, pass it in. And you're just generating an email. That's a cool thing about here with Power Automate as well, is we have very similar email options like you were to do this directly from Outlook, including this last one right here. This is our code view option. So this is where you can add in some HTML as necessary for your email. So if you have an email template that you export as HTML coming from Outlook, you could just copy and paste into here. And then you can just use that email template as well, put in your dynamic content inside of it, and it works fantastic. So that's another cool thing to be able to add in here if you already have that already created. So here, let's see, here are some details about your request. I'll put the date, colon, I'm just gonna add it in here, a nice little list, lightning bolt for dynamic content, and I do have preferred date. I'll go down the line, I'll say, let's say, I think it's called topic. Okay, and meeting topic. And then I'll just do one more and I'll do description. I believe that's the other question we have there. And I believe that'll be the details. Maybe I'll change it to details instead. So I'll go ahead and quickly change it just like that. And you're just creating an email. It's just as simple, just as easy there. And now I can say, just as a kind of goodbye here, we will get back to you as soon as we can. So, something, right? Something to let the user know we've received it. Here's what you chose as a receipt. We'll let you know here as soon as we can. And if you have this done, all you need to do is finally save it. Up in the top right corner, you can select that save button. Once it is saved, from this point, we always want to test this flow. Before we let it go fully live, when we hit save, it's live. Before we let it go and just let everyone else use it or just have it work for us, we always want to test it ourselves just in case we need to make any changes, any tweaks, any edits along the way. So let's go ahead and save it, then test it up here in the top right corner, right between Flow Checker and New Designer. So it needs to be saved first, and then we will go ahead to the next step from there. Okay, so let's go ahead. There it is. There's my save. I get my nice little banner available letting me know it's been saved. I'm going to click on test. Once I click test, I want to perform the starting action. I'm going to test it manually. That's me doing it, right? Perform the starting action right here and click on test at the bottom. So you're just going to select this here, test at the bottom. And now I should see this nice little loading spinner in the middle. That means it's waiting for me to perform the action. In this case, to make the meeting request. So I'll come in here, go to my form now in my other browser tab and answer the questions. And let's see what I get. So I'll put my name here. I'll just send it for myself. It's going to come from myself, which is a little strange, but that's okay. I'll send it to myself here. And I'll put details. Want to discuss a potential hackathon and bootcamp. Okay, and I want to do it on Power Automate. So that's going to be our topic. There's our details, preferred date. I want this to be done on Monday because I need it done soon. That's probably too soon, but I want it to be done Monday. Let's go ahead and hit submit. And now that I've submitted this, it says my response is submitted. If I go back to Power Automate, see how fast that was? Power Automate is automatically checking and waiting for that submission to occur. My Microsoft 365 connectors mean it's already there with the single sign-on. I have check, 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 which means my email went out. So if I go to check my inbox, which I'll check right now, I have this that was sent to me. This is the email that I just received from myself, right? That's from Office 365 Outlook from myself, and that's what I've received. Now I can come in, I can change the colors, I can make it bold, I can underline, I can do some information in the email itself, but you can see here, all of this is dynamic. All of these fields are coming directly from the form, including the email address, directly from the form itself. So now anytime someone submits it, they're going to get an email back from me. Again, as I mentioned, you can go ahead and check out our YouTube channel. Devin Knight has a great video on how to send an email on behalf of someone else. And you can go ahead and add that there as well. Some of the great features here with Office 365 Outlook. Now, one thing I do want to look at is, if you take a look at this right here, my date, one little formatting thing that kind of gets me a little bit here is the date format. That's our year, month, day format. That comes standard from forms, passed through Power Automate looking like that. Now, that's fine, right? That's generally fine the way it is. But if I chose, say, May 5th, May 9th, May 11th, and it wasn't like past 12, if you're outside of the US or inside of the US, thinking about our numbers of months, that could potentially be a little confusing for some people. So what I want to do is format the date a little bit differently. Change it up just a little so it makes it a little easier for our user to understand. So let's take a look at some basic formatting options here with Power Automate. Now, what we're going to do here is select Edit on the top right of our flow. If you want to learn any information about the flow, that run, failure, or anything, you can click in here, by the way, and you can see all of the JSON data that's coming as our body and our outputs and our inputs for different things. You can learn from here. If you get the green check mark, usually you're good to go. That's when we're having some errors. A lot of time we want to explore there. But if I click on Edit in the top right, what I can do is go back to my email. And what I want to focus on in my email steps, so I'm going to click here. I want to focus on this date dynamic content. What I want to do is format the date. Now, some of you may have some Power BI experience. Some of you may have some Power Apps experience, or maybe just some Excel experience. And if you have that type of experience, you've probably worked with some basic date formatting options before. Power Automate uses similar syntax with the date formatting. All we need to know is which expression, which formula do we need to use in order to go ahead and add in our syntax. So what we can do here is, what I want to do is actually remove the date field, because we're going to add it back in once it's formatted. So we have to remove it, format it, put it back in. So I'm going to click on the little X right here, put my cursor wherever I want my date to go. And instead of selecting the lightning bolt that I have, what I want to do is choose beneath it the FX. Okay, that is going to be our expression language here with Power Automate. Okay, so if I click on this, this is going to bring up my expression builder. The expression language here with Power Automate is called our workflow definition language. That is not quite the same as other technologies with Microsoft. It's similar, but not really the same. So it will take you as a new user just a little bit of learning and exploring and finding YouTube videos and other things online to figure out what exactly you need. For this one, if I want to format a date, I'm just going to type in the word format. And oh, look at that. The first thing that pops up is format date time. I get a description of that format date time right here if I click on the little caret here on the side of the chevron, the right arrow. Returns a string and date format. Perfect. So I'm going to click on that. Now, what I need to make sure I also do is put in an opening parentheses. Once I add the opening parentheses, I do get a little bit of the description here of like how exactly I'm supposed to format things and helps you along the way of like what you need to put in next. Inside of my parentheses, I'm just going to click back in here as the cursor is blinking. Inside of the parentheses, I'm now choosing what am I going to format. I don't want to hard code anything. I want to use dynamic content to format. I want to format that date. So I'm going to click here on dynamic content and I can just choose the field I want to format. And it should be at the top there, preferred date. So I'm going to click on that. When I select it, it should go wherever my cursor is blinking up here is exactly where this is going to go. Right there. And that is the actual field and the question, how it's stored with Microsoft Forms. That's the question, the unique value for the question that we have for that date. That works up to a point. What we next need to do, and this is where, again, learning a little bit will be helpful. Watch these videos. I have a video on exactly how to do this on YouTube, by the way. All you need to do next is put in a comma. And this is where you can put in your format. This is where you can pass in, do you want it month, day, month, year? Do you want abbreviation, full word, how many digits? This is where you make that decision. So long as when you work here with Power Automate and a string, a text, anything's formatted like a text or a string, you need to put in a single quote first, an apostrophe first. Add that in. That's going to allow you to capture that string value, that text value, and use that within this dynamic content that you're formatting. So now that I put that in there, I can put my format. Maybe I want to do day hyphen month, 3-letter abbreviated month hyphen year. The lowercase d is day, capital M is month, lowercase m is minutes. Capital M is month, and a Y is for year. I could put a hyphen, I could put a forward slash, I could put a space, I could put a comma. Whatever I put inside, that's what's going to show up in my formatting option. And now I can just be done from here. This is going to use our local settings, our local environmental settings here. So I'm in the United States. It's going to return it in English if I want to change this to French, if I want to change this to Portuguese, if I want to change this to Spanish. I can then just put an optional parameter afterwards and put in which country do I want to format that as, which language do I want to put that in. So if I want to do Portuguese, right, I can do PT. If I want to do Spanish, ES, French, FR, right, and continue that and choose that language there after that final comma. But don't worry about that. You're probably not going to use that too much. So you could just take what we have here. There's our format. I can add that in. Now I've formatted the date. I've already set that up to look a little bit different, and I can save my flow once more. So now what we can do is test it again and match up what we did the first time compared to the second time. And logic would tell you, okay, I hit test and send in a new form request. So select test, and I can choose the manual option again. But what I have now is another choice that we didn't have before. This right here was grayed out earlier where it says automatically. What we can do is here with Power Automate, click on that and then say, I want to use my recently used trigger that worked or failed however long ago, so that we can pass in tests multiple times without redoing the initial trigger each time. This is going to save you a lot of time when testing and configuring and making sure things are edited properly. This is going to save you a lot of time because you don't have to redo the form or add a new record or delete a record again or modify another record. You just keep passing in what was already used. So I'm just going to say automatically with the recently used trigger, the one that worked 8 minutes ago, and then select test. And it's just going to resend that form submission once more. It's going to get the details again and send me a new email. It should look exactly the same except that date field. So this is the original that I had. And the new one looks like this. Now, it looks like it did not accept my formatting. That is definitely not what I asked it. Didn't accept my formatting. Sometimes this happens. Of course, it's going to happen live with us here on YouTube. Sometimes this happens with our designer. So I'm just going to take a quick look at this, and I'm going to edit this once more. Let's see if it actually did my format correctly. See, it actually didn't save my formatting. Super weird. All that, the M and all that didn't come through. So I'm going to do it one more time. And let's see. And again, it's sometimes with our new designer here, this does happen. Let me go ahead and update that. Let me make sure it's saved there. I'm going to save it again, and I'll try it for the third time. That one, I had a feeling, I saw it, I'm like, that's not quite what we want. So let's try it one more. Save there, test there. Let's make sure it does update that. I'll do another automatic one. I can use either one if I want. Okay, I'll use the first one again here. And let's try one more. Let's see what this new email looks like. And there we go. Much better. This is exactly what I want to see. That is my new formatted date. I have a 2-digit day hyphen 3-letter abbreviated value of our month. May just happen to have 3 letters. So there we go. If I did 4 M's, capital M's, full word for the month, and then 4-digit year. So making sure that it's there, done. Again, as you notice, mine came back a little weird. It gave me like that date time format with all the timing in there. That just meant something in my expression wasn't working well. I went back and I checked. It didn't actually carry the formatting for me. So just go do it again, save it, and there we are. You can see that it does capture my format for my date, my 2 differences there, makes things a little bit easier to read. That's one of the great things here about Power Automate, that once you start to get into it, you can use some of your own knowledge base and background to make things easier from there. That's our first one to work with. Pretty cool feature there to play around with here. Every time a new submission comes in, we now have this done. So what I next want to do, let's try something else. That was on a form submission using Describer to design it to get us that pre-built flow with all this features. What I want to do next is make my own, fully customize my very own workflow here with Power Automate. So to do that, I'm going to set some things up first, and then we'll go ahead and build this out. So what I want to do is in the top left corner of my flow, I can click on this blue back arrow, okay, right here. Now, by the way, right next to it, before I click on that right there, if I ever wanted to rename this flow, this is where I can do it. I could just simply click edit, type in the new name, save it, and I can rename the flow from directly in there if I want. I can also do the same thing when I click on this blue back arrow, not in the browser, but on the actual Power Automate window. I can click here, and in my details, if I choose edit, I can rename it from here as well. This is the flow run detail page that just gives me information about the flow connections, the name, the owner, how many runs have I had in the last 28 days? Did they pass? Did they fail? All that good stuff, and a bunch of things up here for me to work with. It's a really nice feature to have if you ever want to just review some of the kind of the flow runs in the past and make sure everything's still working for the future. But what I'll do here is we'll come back to this screen for our next one, is let's go over to the create area. Okay, select create in our navigation. When we select create, This is where we can choose the type of flow that we want to design. The cloud flows are the first three, the ones that we are talking about here today. We just did an automated cloud flow. When a new form response comes in, that's what we had created. We can choose the others from here as well if we want to for our custom ones. We can use describe it to design it right here as well. Same thing we just did. We just click on this to get to the same spot. If we want to build a desktop flow, we can do it all from here as well. And we can also work with some process mining, process advisor flows here as well to take a different look at, some ideas on what things are we doing now that we could potentially create a flow for in the future. What I want to do is create a new custom workflow. And the custom workflow that I would love to have is, let's say that for our organization, for our team that we have, we use SharePoint lists to help us collect data. Instead of having an Excel file or a CSV file or something else in OneDrive or a SharePoint library, we're using lists to help us organize some of our data. If I have a list and I use it as maybe a device request, maybe if I need a new laptop or a new monitor or a keyboard or a mouse or a webcam or a microphone, I want to request that so the organization helps me get a new one, maybe because mine broke or something. We can use a SharePoint list to help us manage those requests. So let's set up a list to do exactly that so that we can go ahead and use Power Automate so that every time a new request comes in, we can go send that automatically to a manager, to a supervisor, to somebody, letting them know a new request has come in. And then maybe even start on some approvals, maybe even start on some extra things inside of that so that we can see if this whole process can be automated from start to finish when a new request begins. So to start us with that topic, let's go ahead and create our SharePoint list as our data source before we start building on the workflow. So what I want to do is I'm going to use my app launcher in the top left corner. I can go back to Microsoft 365 to get to SharePoint Online, or the app launcher here in the top left corner will allow me to go into SharePoint. You may not see all of the apps that I have here because I use these quite often. If you don't see them here, again, go to Microsoft 365 and open up SharePoint. So I'm going to use SharePoint right here. Now, for those of you that haven't worked with SharePoint, and I'll go to one of my sites here, just go use a site here. For those of you that haven't ever worked with SharePoint before, it's a great place to store things, to store objects, to store files, but it also provides us a way to use Microsoft List. So we can have our very own list here to store data as well. And it's a nice way to access that data, all part of Microsoft 365, which we can do right away with Power Automate. So now that I have a SharePoint site, and I've designed this site for different classes I teach, and I have a bunch of things hidden and all that good stuff, what I'm going to do is come here and select New, because I would like to create a new list for us to collect these requests on. I'm going to select List right here. From our home screen, I'll choose List. And for this list, I can create a blank list, I can create a template or use one of these here, but I've actually gone in and done this ahead of time for everyone. So if you want to use the same one I'm doing, you can come in here, and in our course files, I have a device request CSV file created for us so that we can import the pre-created list. So if you want to follow along with me in the course files and the materials there, you can go to that device request CSV file, and we can use that right here. So we're going to choose from CSV. I chose to export a list with schema, so all the columns and data types will come with it to make this as easy as possible for us. So I'm going to select from CSV right here. And then I'll just go ahead and upload a file. If it's already here in OneDrive or SharePoint, I can choose from one of these, but I'm just going to choose upload a file from that folder there. And here it is, my CSV file that I'm pointing to, and I'm going to choose open. Okay, this is all in our course materials. And now here are the columns. The data types of the columns are above them. Our title column, which is our primary column, there it is. Description is a single line of text. Requester column is a people picker column here for us to go select somebody to, or this is where they put their own names if they want to make a request. We have a request date and time. We have a priority column, which is a choice field. We have estimated cost, a number column. We have a Boolean column, a yes, no, or true, false column for approved. And we also have in some comments here to store for if it's approved or rejected, what the person said. All I'm going to do is select next. I'll use this name here, or I can call it something else if I'd like, and then hit create. And it should create the list for me so that I can go ahead and use this as my data source. And it should do the same thing for you. This is our list. All the columns are there for us, and it's really easy to share data back and forth. Okay, so this is a really great way of being able to have that so you can pass it one from one to the other. All right, now what we can do here is start to add in fields. It looks like it added an extra column in here for me. This looks like to be my title column. I'll just skip this when I do this. I'll go hide field 0. I don't believe I'm going to be using that one. All right, so I think everything should be good from there. All right, so now I'll use this list. And the goal is, our objective is when a new request is added to this list, let's start off by, first thing, send an email receipt to the requester. First step. Second step, if the requested item is expensive, we'll have to determine what that is, then get manager approval. Okay, so we'll have to figure out how to do that. Then finally, if the manager approves, update the list to show the approval, to show the status or whatever we have, okay, the approval. Okay, so that's going to be our goal here for this specific scenario so that every time it happens, we're just going. All right, so that's going to be the big idea. So we can go to Pack to Power Automate, create our very own custom flow to do this. Now, when I'm designing a custom flow, here are the things I think about. What's my end goal? What's the end target? Always kind of go backwards design. What is the last thing I need? Okay, I just said here, if approved, update the list. So I need to be able to update a record. I need to be able to approve a request. I need to figure out how to determine if it was approved or not. Like yes or no. If it was approved, do this. If not, do that. Then how do I start it? I'm kind of going backwards here. How do I get to the ability to do all that? Well, when a new request is added, this here will determine the type of flow, the trigger type. If it's when a new request is added to the list, that means it's outside of Power Automate, which means it should automatically occur. So if I go to Power Automate now and see in this create field and see the types of flow, which type of flow in the cloud should I have? I want it to automatically occur. Automated cloud flow. That's the way I want you to think about how to start your flow process. If it's when I tell it to run or when I push a button instantly on these days at this time schedule. That's always the big starting point, and then build out the rest from there. So let's go ahead and create an automated cloud flow. I'm going to call this new device request to email, or new device request. I'll just do that, maybe with approval as well. I'll add that little piece in there because so I know exactly what I'm doing in here. And then I now need to choose the trigger. Choose what connector do I need to use to monitor when this new request comes in. We've already used when a new response is submitted. If you just go down one, when an item is created, right there. That's going to be the one we want because in SharePoint, if I go again to my SharePoint list, it says add new item. New item is created. Kind of goes hand in hand. So that's perfect. So we'll say, yes, when a new item is created, that's going to be my trigger. Hit create. And now what we can do is go ahead, set up our connections, and create the flow from here. So let's go ahead and set up our first step of this flow. When the item's created, get our email going, then start to evaluate some things. So click in the middle when an item is created. This is where we can go in and say, okay, where is it created? Like which site, which list are we going to monitor? So I can go back here to SharePoint and check, this is my teaching site. So I can see that my URL as well, right here. That's the name of my site, so that'll help me. Okay, so I'm going to come here, site address. I have my site there. Which list? If I have 40, I'll see a list of 40 here. I should only have the one, I think, available. So that's, for me, perfect. That's the one I want. And now, when it's created on this site, on this list, that's what we're monitoring here, we can go to the next step. So now what we can do is, I'm going to hit this plus sign right here to go ahead and start to add our next step, our next action in the process. Click here, add an action. And all we're going to do is take the same type of logical flow, logical sequence that we saw in our describer to design it and move it here. Luckily with SharePoint, we don't have to have an intermediate step to like get the details of the item. We can just go straight from here. So what we can do is we can start off with maybe sending an email. We can go in and say, send an email and just search for it in our actions. Or we can choose by the connector itself. If I get rid of this, choose from here, just scroll down and choose one of these. You will see there is this mail connector right here. This is going to come from Power Automate, Power Apps. That's literally what the email will say the sender is from. However, it is not going to be available to anyone that has a new tenant. So it is disabled for some of the new tenants out there if you've just created this tenant. So that's why we're going to use Office 365 Outlook here for today. All right. So keep that in mind as we're doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and go send an email. Now, when we work with emails, you can see there's our mail one once more. I can even do this from Gmail if I want. Keep in mind the connector, the service you're doing this for. Office 365 Outlook, that means our Microsoft 365 account. If we come down here, there's Gmail. Outlook.com, that's your Hotmail account, your Gmail, your Windows Live, your other accounts that you have here. Keep in mind which connector you're using because you'll have to log into that connector in order for this to happen. Okay, so let's come in here and I'm going to choose send an email V2. This is the updated edition of the send an email action. So before we had the original send an email, now we're going to use the newest version, version 2 of this. So it's just updates all that with all the new features. So we can select that, send an email V2. And now what I want to do is I'm going to send an email to whoever made the request, the requester, because I would want to give them just a little bit of info, and then we'll go ahead and set up all the next steps. So I'm going to come in here to enter custom value again. If I don't enter custom value, I have to type it in manually. I don't want that. Enter custom value. There's our lightning bolt again. And now we've done this already, so we can go a little bit quicker. I'm going to select the lightning bolt. And now I can say, who am I going to send it to? With SharePoint, specifically with SharePoint, this requester column, this is a people column or a person column. Okay, which means a person column is looking up to the users, Office 365 users for the people inside of the tenant. It's going to grab information about that user, whoever you put in there. So it's going to get their name, the display name. It's going to get their email address. It's going to get their job title, going to get other pieces of information that you can use here inside of Power Automate. For us, we're just simply going to use the requester email in this case, just like that. So that's the requester. Then subject, maybe I'll put details about your device request. And then I can add in the body, and I'm just not going to format my email too specific here. I'll just put in some details. I'll put in device and then just do some bulleted here, just kind of like we did with our last one to go a little bit quicker through this. Of course, you'd make your email much nicer. All right, so I'll do device. It should be title. That's how it's stored in SharePoint. So I'm going to use title for the device in this case because I know my list. and you'll know yours obviously as you do this on your own customized. I'll do, let's see, I'll go back to SharePoint and see what else we have. Description, we have date, priority. Let's do that. I'll put a description. Okay, add in some dynamic content here. There's description. Maybe I'll use priority. And I'll use my dynamic content for that. Now I don't see the priority here. To get to all the other fields, I'll have to click right here, see more. Notice there's 46, which means that SharePoint gives us not just the custom ones that we design, but all of the other ones that are automatically created as well, that have here with our metadata. When you'll see here, there's our priority value. Any choice column will always have value, the actual numerical value that the choice display label is being used, the value that it helps it index and all that good stuff underneath. That's what we're always going to choose here for priority. And then finally, I'll put in one last one, estimated cost. And one last one here, estimated cost. I'll put that in here. I can hit see more, or I can actually just search since I know the name of the column, the word cost, and there it is. So there we go, estimated cost. Now I can save this. And let's test it on our first level. Always test level by level. Make sure things are working great for yourself. Test this first level. Then we'll add in our next stage for approvals and all that good stuff. So I'm going to come in here, test. And we're going to do a manual test. So we'll go ahead and do this. Again, same thing like we did before. Test in the upper right-hand corner. You have to save it first, otherwise this won't appear for you. Test, manual test. I'm going to click test here. All I need to do now is go ahead, because it's spinning waiting, I'm going to add an item. So I'm going to make a new request. I'll add an item. I will call this, new title is large monitor. Description, mine is super old. I don't know, something, right? I'll put myself in here as the requester. And I'll just put my email in here and it should load in looking around, and it's going a little bit slow, but if you put in your name or your email, it should automatically appear. Let's see if I just do this. I'll put in there it goes. Took a little bit there. There's my name. It's going to take my email, my photo, all that good stuff there. I can put in my date. What is the request date? And that's today. Priority. I'm going to say this is it critical I need a new monitor? Probably not. I'll make it medium. Estimated cost. I won't pick a huge one or a super fancy, so I'll call it 125. Okay, I'll make it. We can go find something. And then these here, I would normally hide this in SharePoint for my users or not allow them to see this in the form. But right now, we'll just let it go. We'll just say, just don't touch that until later. And then I hit save for this new form request here that I have for my device and go back to Power Automate. I've made my request. It should be monitoring that list on that site, waiting for the request to come in. Once they gets it, then it's going to go ahead and send me an email. Now, when we get to this next stage, and I'm taking a look at some of our the questions here coming in, and Devin Knight's doing a great job monitoring the chat for us here on our team at Pragmatic Works. When we get to the approval section, what we're going to do is we're going to try to dynamically find who my manager is, to go ahead and send them an email, send them a message to have the approval go auto from there. Okay, so I want to have it dynamically reach out to that user. With approvals, we can have it go to one person. We can have it go to a bunch of people. We can have it where we can have multi-staged approvals. It just depends on how you want to create your flow and how you want to design it. But all of these things are capabilities that we have here with Power Automate. So it looks like my connection into SharePoint is going a little bit slow right now. But let's see, I know I have it done. I'm just monitoring the right there. Always happens while I look away, right? You walk away, it's already done. Call up IT, and it's like, oh, they fixed my problem without me doing anything. Of course, it happens that way. Item is created. Send an email. I should have an email in my inbox right now, and here it is. This is the email I've received, again, from myself here. Again, we could change how that works. There is my email, there's my device, description, priority, and cost. So we have all that sent to us automatically when the new device request comes in. What we can do next is go in and maybe we want to format not just the date, but a number. Maybe we want to then evaluate, okay, is this expensive? What is the expensive limit for us? If it's greater than this number that we pass in, go ahead and start an approval. So let's do one thing here. And then I think it's a good point for us here. We're about an hour and a half into our session, take a nice quick little break, and then come back and put in our approval, and we'll be all set from there. So let's do one last thing here, and that's to format this number. I want it to have my currency symbol. I'm in the US, I want the US dollar. If I'm in Britain, I want the pound sterling symbol. If I'm in Europe, I want the euro. If I'm outside where I want the yen, the won, whatever I want to add that in there. We can go ahead and do that here for us. So to add that in here with Power Automate, edit. Just like we did our format our date, I go in to my email and go back to my cost and remove it first. Remember, you have to remove it, then add it back in. If I remove it, click on my FX. Again, just like we did with the date, I can click on FX and say, I want to format the number. Last time was date. Now I can do number. Click on format number. Open parentheses. Which number do I want to format? Well, let's go get it. It's from SharePoint. We know which one it is. I can click on dynamic content and choose which one I want to format. I don't see it here. I can search for it or click see more. Searching is usually pretty fast. I know it's the cost one. So I'm going to format the cost. Like right here. It's called field 5. It's only called field 5 because I did that export as CSV and we imported it again as a CSV. That's why it's that way. I'm going to export that. I'm going to then say, okay, what format do I want? Comma. And I can put in, if I want to put in single quotes and manually type in the format of the value, if I put in single quotes and then our pound sign or hashtag, that can carry my place value. And I can do something like this. So if it's a number there, I can format it. And maybe I want to do 3 of them. And I can put a comma, 1, 2, 3. That will then have my number with a comma in it. But then I need to put in the symbol. And now I'm essentially hard coding it with that symbol every time. I want it to find out where I am and use my company location settings instead. So instead of using all that, that allows us to essentially hard code, this is the format I want to look like this every time. What we can do is, instead of that, there's a bit of a trick. There, all you have to do is put a capital C for currency. Capital C is currency. Then how many decimal places do you want? I want 2 decimal places. And all I have to do is that. Capital C, currency, 2 decimal places. It's going to use my current location settings. Figure out I'm in the United States. I'm going to use the US dollar sign. If I want to use a different currency, comma, I can go and choose a different locale. Maybe I want to put the pound sterling. GB-GB. And I can force it to go to a different location, grab their currency symbol, and pass it in here if I need. Now, I'm not going to because I'm here in the US, but that is an option for me. If I was in anywhere that's using the euro, any country in the Eurozone that uses euro would be able to pass it in. Go ahead and use all of your different currency symbols from there. Now, all I have to do is add this. I'm going to make sure it actually kept it. The formatting went away. See, that's why I made that mistake before. For some reason, it didn't show it. I'm going to do it once more. C2. I'm going to hit update. I'm a highlight. If I just hover my mouse over here, it should see. I'm just waiting for it to say that C2 at the end. You won't make that mistake twice on one of these live events. There it is, C2. If I now save it, I can test it one more time. Now let's see what that new formatted number looks like, just like we did our formatting of our date. So I'll click on test. And I'm going to do an automatic one. Just like we did before with the form, why not just pass in the same number we had for the same value and same request we had in our list here. Same idea, test automatically so I don't have to redo and add it again and over and over and over. Send the one I've already done. Test it here. It should go pretty fast because it's going to store all that kind of metadata for us. It'll go really quick. And here is my email again. It went fast. There is my email that I had now with our formatting done as a currency with 2 decimal places every single time. If there is no number in the decimal place, it'll be 0, 0. If there is a value, it's going to make sure we have 2 decimal places. So that's our initial setup here for our flow. What we're going to do is take a 10-minute break. We're going to have our timer up for everybody. When we come back in our 10 minutes, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and add in our process to figure out, do we need to have this approved or not? And if we do, how do we work with it? And if it's approved, let's go fix everything. And then we'll be good to go from there. Stay tuned here. We'll be back here in 10 minutes. Enjoy your little quick break, and I'll see you in just a little bit. Hey, Marshall, if you want to add that for us, that'd be awesome.
All right, Jonathan, can you hear me? It was just director's voice. Nobody else should be hearing. All right, I'm going to flip back to you and go. Oh, hold on.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome on back from that nice little break we've had. Before we continue real quick, what I wanted to do is talk with you a little bit about some extra things that you might want to take advantage of here while you are watching here and you have the opportunity to go ahead and get a little bit more information from us here at Pragmatic Works. What you can see on screen here is I have our home site here, our webpage opened up. And if you want to learn more about what we here at Pragmatic Works does for you, you can go ahead and take a look here, pragmaticworks.com. And here at pragmaticworks.com, if you want to take a look at some of our training opportunities, just come over here and navigate to training. You'll be able to see some of the private training options that we have here, which includes our on-demand learning. So I'll start here. On-demand learning is one of the things that we're super proud of. This is where we have our own platform of recorded courses for you to take. So you can go ahead and navigate over there, take some of our free courses as well as our paid courses if you want to subscribe there so that you can go ahead and level up your skills with Power Automate and a lot of other things. So let me take you into what that looks like here. If I just select Start Learning, you can take a look at what our on-demand learning platform looks like. We do have a free community plan for you to give you a little bit of like a sneak peek access into what we offer, as well as getting a lot of our free options, including this recorded course as well. This live session and all of our YouTube live events will show up here on our platform so that you can go ahead and revisit and pause and fast forward as many times as you want for all of these courses that we do on YouTube as well. Now you can go ahead and get your free account, hit Start Learning, and then I'm going to show you what our homepage looks like here at our on-demand platform. So let's get it to come up here and we can see all of our courses. For the courses themselves, you can filter by category. Here, if you come over to our categories, you can take a look at our Learn with the Nerds or anything under Free for Life is going to be exactly what it sounds. Free for life, no strings attached. You can have free access for as long as you need to come and view and take and fast forward and rewind all of our courses, including our in-a-day courses that we deliver for Microsoft. So you'll see Matt and myself. You can come down and scroll down. We have Manuel and Mitchell and Brian and all of our trainers here. When we do a live event that's free, we post it here for you to come and take a look at. There's Devin right there in Austin. And you can take a look at all of our events that we've done in the past that we also have, of course, on YouTube as well. So for this is a great way for you to learn about these topics we have and use our courses if you want to go a little bit deeper than what we have for our Free for Life. What we also have here are our courses laid out by topic, like our Power Automate courses here. For these courses, you can see we have advanced, we have problem, we have some solutions here of working with the Power Platform, our introduction class. I have some RPA courses as well here for you to take to learn more about Power Automate. And if you look at our beginner and advanced course here, I'm actually in the process right now, after I finish here today, to go ahead and I'm almost done redoing all of these courses so you can see all of the new modern designer that Microsoft has enabled in the last 8 to 12 months. So I'm having that all done there, and we should expect an update of all these courses out probably within the next month or so. So you'll see all the new features, and I've gone in and changed some things around to make it really, really helpful for you as a user to get into the introduction, the beginner level, and advanced level options with Power Automate. So I want to be able to make sure that you all have access to that afterwards if you want to be able to learn more about Power Automate. In fact, I believe we should be opening up our courses to you. All of our Power Automate courses are going to be open for everyone for free for this weekend as well. So you can go ahead and take a look at all of our Power Automate courses if you want for free until the end of the weekend. So take a look at that there. There is a QR code on screen that you can go use to go ahead and just use your phone to sign up for a free account from there. Now, not only do we have some recorded courses on that platform, but we also have one of our proudest, newest features here at Pragmatic Works called Cert XP. So I want to show you what that looks like here, and then I'll talk about some of the other things that we have as options. If you take a look at our on-demand platform in the top left corner, if I select the 3 lines there, expand our little navigation, I'll go to Cert XP. It's still in beta right now, but you can see Cert XP. And this is something that's going to be really, really helpful for you if you are interested in taking any type of certification exam, especially those from Microsoft. If you've ever taken them before, you know how stressful they can be. And Microsoft gives us some good documentation, some practice questions, but they're kind of limited. What we've designed here for you at Cert XP is your destination to have your prep for those exams. You can scroll down and see the different exams that we have available. And we're expanding this every single week as we add more to it so that you can come in, take one of these, continue on a path or start a path to prepare for that exam. So you have here, you can kind of see all of our exams that we have. If I want to choose our Power Platform Fundamentals, the PL 900 exam, I can come in here, click continue as I've worked my levels here, select one of these, and I can have questions. And if I come here, answer a question, let's say I'm going to just choose a random one. It's probably wrong here. I'm going to choose one, select one. It's wrong. What we also have is what we call our quick coach. It's either Brian, myself, or others here at Pragmatic Works explaining to you why the answer is correct or why it's incorrect. We want to really help you learn and understand rather than just simply cram and memorize answers. The whole purpose here for us here at Pragmatic Works is to help you truly grow so that you understand the information so that you can grow off of that in the future. Again, these exams are just here to prove that you really know what you're talking about. So Cert XP for us is our way to help you prove your knowledge. So we have all these questions here that you can play out loud, and we have all this available for you so that you have the ability to truly practice with all of this to get ready for that exam. Take a look at that at your convenience on our platform to go ahead and learn more about Cert XP and all the great stuff that comes with it if you get a subscription to our on-demand learning platform. Okay, so you can see here, our subscription is just $39 a month. Go ahead and sign up there. Again, as mentioned, all of our courses are going to be free through the weekend. You can go ahead and take those Power Automate courses and really see what is there. Is it worth my time? And I bet you it is because they are great. And of course, we have a lot of us here at Pragmatic Works as former educators. We really want to make this the easiest way for you to learn as possible. Now, those are the things that we have here from just our Cert XP and our on-demand classes. What I also want to show you are some of the other things that we also offer. Like if you wanted some more specific training for you and your team, what we have are some virtual mentoring, which is our way of working one-on-one with you, essentially like a tutoring session, so that you can get that customized help for you and your specific problem at your convenience. You get to book with us on our calendar so that you can get somebody, an expert, help you solve your problems to go ahead and move on to the next from there. Booking at 30 minutes up to 2 hours at a time so that you can learn more and be able to grow and do things for yourself. And again, we're guiding you. We're not giving you the answers and just handing it to you. We're showing you how you could do it for yourself so that next time you can do it. And again, the whole purpose of is growth. So that's some of our things there with virtual mentoring. We also do hackathons, which is essentially an 8-hour single day event of us working with you on your data, your team, your data, your use case. We help you solve that big problem or create from there. That's our hackathons there. So you can come here to training and see all of our training options that we have here to work with on top of our public options like our boot camps. So we do our boot camps both private and public, virtually or on site. Like we can come to you and do a boot camp, and I've done a couple of those, and I will be going out pretty soon for a couple more to help you do more. And you can see some of our upcoming boot camps here. We have an Excel boot camp next week with Allison. We have our advanced Power BI boot camp coming up next week with Greg. You can see we have a fabric boot camp coming up next week as well with Manuel. We have a lot here for you so that you can learn more and grow. I just finished our Power Automate boot camp yesterday. Well, another one coming up soon. But of course, I have Power Apps as well. You can take a look at all the other boot camps there that we can offer. And these are our public offerings. So you can just sign up on your own, or anybody on your team sign up together, and you can come take that with us. But as I mentioned, we can do that privately for you too, just you and your team if you want. So we have a lot of options for you. However you need, just come on to us so we can kind of work with you and help you go ahead and get what you like from there. Now, finally, the last thing I want to show you is something we call our Season Learning Pass. This is the best bang for your buck that you can have. If you come to us and you were like, you know what, I want to take 3-4 boot camps. I want virtual mentoring. I want to have those online classes. I want everything, but that seems pretty expensive. What we've done is have our nice little bundle here for you so that you get access to all of that in one package so that you can go ahead and have unlimited boot camps for a full year. You have your 3 hours of your virtual mentoring part of this package. You get access to all of our courses and Cert XP. Plus, you get your very own special team channel. You get your learning advisor as well, so that you have everything that we have to offer here from Pragmatic Works. If you want more information on that, go ahead and reach out to myself or anyone here at Pragmatic Works, or take a look at some of the info we have in the description here for our course, and you can get a lot of info from there so we can help you grow and level up your skills for you and your team in the future. Hopefully, we can see you there in the future. So now that we've taken a look at that and all the extras you can have with us, let's go back into Power Automate and let's take a look at our workflow. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate there. Now, I haven't mentioned our YouTube channel yet. I promise I'm going to talk to you about that. You're going to see this on YouTube, so you know a little bit about our channel. Our YouTube channel has a lot on there. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So I'm going to go back here to Power Automate, and this is the workflow that we've been talking about. What we've done up to this point for this workflow is when an item's created, send an email. Up next, what we want to do is set up the ability to say, okay, if it's expensive, if the device that we're asking for is expensive, start an approval. So what we need to do here is, as I click edit on our workflow, what we need to do is add in a way to check if something occurs or not, if a value is greater than something else. That if you think about within any type of basic logic, is a conditional statement. If this, then that, else. Added in. So if we click on the little plus icon down here and add an action, what I want to do is add in an if statement, a conditional statement. So all I need to do is type the word in condition, and we have a control here with Power Automate called the condition control, which is the easiest way to use if this then else logic without adding in an expression, without using code, because it just builds it as an action instead. It uses it as a step instead, so it's just nice and simple to go ahead and work with. So now what we can do is we can come into our condition and we can evaluate something. We can click on this choose a value area, and we can add in our dynamic content. There's our lightning bolt again, to go ahead and evaluate our cost. So I'm going to click on that, and I'll just search for cost once more, and I'll put in our cost. Now, we don't need to format this because we're just looking at a number in this case. We're not worried about the currency, anything on top of it. We just want the actual number. So I'm going to put in our estimated cost, and now in the middle, we have our evaluator. Okay, is equal to, contains, does not contain. Again, this should be relative to the data type that you're working with. We have a number, so contains is not going to really be a thing for us. But what we want to look at is maybe is greater than or equal to. You choose whichever works for you. So maybe I'll say is greater than. And then I'll choose a number. Whatever number you determine to be expensive for your team or yourself, that's what we're going to put in here. Maybe I'll put in $200. That's our limit. Anything under that, we're good. Or maybe $100, whatever it is. You could put in your limit there. If it's greater than that, we need approval. If not, just go for it. So now what we can do is come in here and say, all right, if this condition is true, if it's true that our cost is greater than 200, that's this right here. We add our steps. This is if true, if the condition is true. If it's not greater than 200, we go down the false branch. And the part about a condition is it will only go down one side or the other. That's it. True or false. So it's really nice and simple to get that logic to evaluate. And now we're controlling the path of the flow. That's why they're called controls. We get to control what happens next. So I can come in here and say, if it's true that our device request is expensive, what should I do? If it's false, what should I do? Let's talk about the true. If it's true that it's expensive, click on the plus sign and add an action. And what we can do is we can go ahead and start an approval process. There are a couple different options with approvals. There is the Power Automate approvals connector right here, which will go ahead and send out, create this approval that's sent out via email. It's sent into Teams. It's sent so you can do it on your phone in Power Automate app. You can kind of respond in a lot of places, but it's really meant for internal approvals. What if I had a request that came from an external source? Maybe it's coming from a form. The form is the request, and I do it that way. Not always the best way forward. So what we can do is, especially if you're working with external users, I do a lot of, here at Pragmatic Works, we do a lot of work with K-12 school systems and universities and government agencies around the US and Canada. And if you're working with external users, that's probably not the way to go. So the popular one that we see a lot of people wanting to use is, I just want to use an email and I want to send it on behalf of somebody or a shared account. So there is an action with Office 365 Outlook. Under Send Email, there is an option. If I just come in here and just do Send Email, we've already done Send an Email V2. Right beneath it, though, there's an option called Send Email with Options. This one allows us to have an email just like we sent earlier, like up here, it's coming from us, which we can change, of course, but there are buttons inside of it. And we can say what the buttons say. We can have a description. We can curate what's inside of this email. And it gets sent out to whatever email address we put in here. It's a great solution, especially when trying to do an approval with an external user. So it gives you options, internal, external. You're just giving out an email. And most of us, let's be honest, most people, emails are the first go-to. Teams might be second, right? So this is a great way of just going straight to the source. So now I can come in here and I can specify who I'm sending the email to. Well, I can type in this case, if I want, I'm going to put in Devin Knight because he's here helping me out today. I'm going to have him as my approver. I can just hard code that in. If it's going to that person every time, that is the approver in this case. Okay. If I wanted to get the manager, now we're talking about internal. If this is only internal and I wanted to get the direct supervisor, the direct manager of who's making the request, technically I can get that dynamically. If I add an action before this, before my send email options up here, there is a step. If I come here and add an action ahead of it, because I want to be able to use it down here, right? There is a step from Office 365 user connection, quite simply called Get Manager. And it is great for internal purposes. You can dynamically get the manager of the user. All you need simply called Get Manager. All you need is the user's user principal name, their email address. So if I come in here and I click right there for user principal name, I can then select the dynamic content, our little lightning bolt. And if I pass in the requester's email, it's going to go in. This is only for internal again, right? Because they have to be part of the tenant. It's going to go find that person, look them up in the Azure Active Directory, in the Entra ID, and find their direct supervisor so long as it's been set up. If it's been set up, it's going to dynamically capture their supervisor, their manager, and do it for us. So now, request their email. And look here. That's all I did is put in their email. That's all we're putting in here, the email address of the person you want the manager for. Send email options. Technically, what I could do is I could send this to multiple people if I wanted to. And I'm not going to. I'm not just going to show you here. I could send this out to hit my lightning bolt and go and find under Get Manager, get their birthday, their city, their company name. If I click See More, I can get their mail, their email address, and send it to them here. Again, this is only for internal users, and it's only if the company tree of the hierarchy has been set up ahead of time. If that's not been set up, this is not going to work. It's going to fail. You're not going to like it. Okay, so you need to have some of these things set up ahead of time, and this works fantastic. Okay. Now, I'm not going to do that because I know my manager is doing an event right now, so that's not going to work quite well. So we'll just go ahead and send it to Devin. Devin's here helping out today in the chat. Okay, so send email options. I'm going to send it to Devin. Then, okay, I can then set up my email right here. I can say the importance. I can choose to hide email HTML messages. I can change these fields here, these boxes, by choosing the dropdown. And if I don't want all of these, I can clear all. And then I can show all to get everything, or clear all. And I can choose the dropdown to choose, only ones I care about, like the header text, the selection text, the body, the subject, the user options. These other ones, these kind of more like the metadata feel and all that good stuff. I could just do this instead. So if these are the ones I want, click away, and they show up right here. So you can just choose what you want to edit or not. That's what these parameters are. Now in the header text for my email body. So this is so when the email comes out, it has a kind of a couple boxes. And the body is like the message. This is like describing the body. I could say, please see details below. The selection text, I'm going to choose, this is essentially the header of the buttons. Make a selection. Now the body of the email. Okay. And again, you don't have to put header text or selection text. You can leave it blank if you'd like. You can put that here if you need. Body of the email. Let's say, please review the details. I'm just going to put it nice and quick. The details, and make a selection to approve or not. And then I'll go down a line. Again, just the body of an email, like nice and simple. And I'll put some basic information. Essentially, I want to put what's in here, right? I want to put all this detail, which means technically I can probably come in here and Control C, copy, Control V, paste. I just went to my other email and said, well, it's the same stuff I'm sending to the approver that I sent to the requester. Copy and paste it. Just highlight it all, Control C, go where you want to take it, and then you can go ahead and paste it in. And there it is. Okay, so now I have that information done. That's pretty convenient. Copy, paste whenever you can. I mean, why not, right? Why wouldn't you do that? So now there's our body, or our subject. There is a new device request waiting your approval. Okay, now the big part about this, the last piece here, the user options. This is where we need to choose the buttons. What actually is on the button? Yes, no, approve, reject, sure or not this time, right? You decide what you want in there. This is just a comma separated list here. So I can say approve, comma, space, reject. Those are going to be the two options I'm giving the approver. I could say anything I want here, really. This is just going to show up in 2 buttons. I could put 3 buttons. I could put 4. Now, if I put 3 or 4, it's going to be a little bit different evaluation, but technically I can do that if I needed to. And so now with my email with options, I next need to evaluate what if they say approve? What if they say reject? So out loud, as I'm thinking about this, if they say approve, if they click on approve, do this. If they click on reject, do that. Again, an if is a logical condition. After every approval, I need a new condition. So that's something to keep in mind. Every single approval has to have a condition with it. Add an action after every single approval, whatever it looks like. Emailed options, post a choice of options as the flow bot to a user in Teams or the approvals connector. All of them need a condition. So we're going to put in another condition after our approval goes out. This is going to evaluate which button did they choose. Did they click on the button that says approve? Did they click on the button that says reject? Now, as we do this, before I even make that decision, what you'll notice is on mine, I'm just going to pull my flow down a little bit here to see it, is for my condition, it says condition 1 and condition. That's because you can't have the same name for 2 steps. So as a best practice here with Power Automate, it's also really helpful, in fact, we want to rename steps wherever we need. So like this condition, I can go in here in the title of the action here. Instead of condition 1, I can say check manager selection. And whatever I write here shows up at the name of the condition. I can come up here to this condition. Always leave the initial name in there and just add to it. This one is check if over 200, right? $200. I can do that. Now I know if it's over $200, true, do all these. Really good for organization now. Also, you're helping your future self when you come back to look at this and read about it and help someone on your team. You know exactly what's happening here without guessing. You just see, oh, that's what that is doing. That's what that is doing. Really nice and simple. One of the nice and easy pieces, just looking at the flow there. Okay, so now we have our second condition back into here. If I go back into this condition, I'm selecting right here, just clicking on the name, making life really easy there. Okay, we'll then come in here and choose a value. Okay, what we're going to do is we're simply going to come in here and say in our dynamic content, the selected option. Okay, the selected option. The selected option is equal to approve. This is an equals operator, which means this word has to match exactly this word here. I like to keep it in the affirmative, so I'm going to use approve. Casing matters, spelling matters. So make sure whatever word you put in your email with options, you're choosing the exact same word here, capital, lowercase, spelling, whatever it is, must be exact. Right? Because we're saying is equal to. If it's equal to approve, what should I do? Well, let's go here and finally, on our true, we're getting all the way down here. When this has been approved, we're going to add an action and we are going to go back to SharePoint over here on our SharePoint list and we have approved. We're going to set this to yes, set this to true. If we have comments, we could put them there. So we want to go to our flow and in our if true step here, we can go in and we can say update. Well, we did create item. So this means that we're going to update the item. So going back to SharePoint. So we can go here, SharePoint update item. This is where we're finally setting in that those last fields here with our options here. So we site address, all of this is going to match all the way up here. We're going to use the same site, the same list. And then we're going to take the ID that was generated for this item created, and we're going to put it into our update step as well. So in our update item, we'll go to our site. which is my teaching site. We're going to go to our list, the one I only want to have here, and the ID. Again, the ID, the unique identifier of the item. So I need to go to when the item was created and pass in the unique identifier, the ID for when the item was created. So I know which record to go update. Otherwise, it's just going to mismatch and look around and guess, and it's not going to be useful. So the ID is there. Now, what do we want to update? Look, it's already guessing. It's already guessing. Approved. We're saying yes. Manager selection is true, the approved. So we're going to change that to yes. Other parameters in here. If you have approval comments, I'm just selecting the drop down here and adding comments. What we could do is if we have any dynamic comments coming from our approval, we could put them in here. So if there were comments, if we had it coming in, and maybe I'll search for, I don't think the email doesn't let you do it with comments, but if you're using the approval one, you can. There's other ones that you can have and pass in here. You can put in comments, or you can hard code a comment and say approved by, and then you could put in who the approver was dynamically, okay? And you could say, you could put in here. So you can put that data in here so you can add it, and I'll say approved by Devin. Okay, and I can put in today's date, and I can put in other information. Add that in this here as well. So as long as you have the data passed in dynamically, you can pass it out dynamically. The approvals connector, that is all the internal ones, gives you comments, gives you responses, gives you a lot of stuff, but it also takes up some space. It creates 4 Dataverse tables to store all this information. You get more, but there's more that comes with it. So this one's a really lightweight, really simple one to use. Now, logically speaking, if we go through this whole process, items created, we let the user know that we have, this is your receipt, okay? The conditional check, we get manager, send out the approval. If it's been approved, update the item. We should probably let the user know it's been updated, right? We should probably let them know, hey, it's been approved by this person on this day. That's what we would do next, right? And the false, we would let them know, hey, it's not been approved because of this reason. We could do the same. Essentially, we're taking our send an email and we're sending them out a bunch of ways. If our check is not true, which means it is not over 200, what could we do here? Well, we might just come in here and update the item to automatically approve it. Now you could add in all these steps manually as we've done, click this button, add an action, all that good stuff. But one of the things we do get here with Power Automate, especially this new edition, is if you right click on an action, you can copy it. So what I always like to do, excuse me, is finish out one side. And if I have to reuse actions, kind of the same thing, but just kind of over there, copy it. Right click to copy it. Control C does it as well. Then I can go all the way up here to this first if false, if it's not over 200, and I can click here and paste it. And there it is, update item. Now it's going to give me the same answers, the same thing that I have down there. I can just tweak it if I need. I can change it, make little edits. So instead of approved by Devin on this copy, I can say automatically approved for that, right? Since under 200, something like that. I can come in here and say update item instead of copy, rename it. Automatic approval. So you now have the ability to just copy paste. This was not a thing with our old designer with Power Automate, not an option. Now it's a great option for us. So now we have our automatic updates for our records. We can come in here and do the same copy for send an email, copy action. I can come in here and I can say, I could paste it in either one of these. It's been approved by this person and when. Maybe I'll just do one here because it's the same one, just a little bit different body here. Not add an action. I wanted to paste that one. Paste an action. There we go. Send an email, copy. Instead of saying details about your request was rejected. This is who rejected it. This is why. You could put that in there. It was rejected. Okay, and I could say your request, oh goodness, for I'll put this dynamically for this case just to make it add in here, but we don't necessarily need it for right this moment for that. Was rejected. And just put, obviously the email, we'd put a little bit more details in this in real life, right? So we can just add that in there to round out our flow. Again, I'd probably put one here too as well. Let the user know it was approved, expect it by this day, or all that good stuff. Be in contact with this person to make the order. You could always add that in another follow-up email, of course, right? But our workflow, generally speaking at this point, is done. We could add in more, we can add in this and that, but let's go ahead and do a save and test on this to see exactly how it works. So what I'm going to do is I could test it automatically. It'll end up being false because I think I had 125 was my request number. So that would be the automatic approval. But I'm going to add a new one, a new manual one, because I actually want to see what this send email with options looks like. So I'm going to come here and do test, manual test, and we'll hit test right here. Now for this one, I'm just going to go to SharePoint and I'll do add new item. I'll do a new one here, new computer. Okay, description. I want a fast one. I'll put myself in here. There we go. Request date. I'll come in here and put in today. Again, priority. I'll make it critical. Cost. I'll put it. That's probably going to be a decent one there. Save. And let's see the workflow run. And now, remember, it's expensive. So I'm going to get an email first saying, hey, we received your request, right? Then Devin, who hopefully is by his email address now, Devin's going to go ahead and respond to that yes or no, because I put that email in for him. He's going to respond to that yes or no, so we can see which approval yes or no comes in from that. And by the way, for SharePoint, if it was rejected, we could probably go to SharePoint and say no, and this is the reason why, and all that good stuff. Update item 2. We haven't had that in there, but think about all of the different possibilities as things occur. I do know that it's going to go a little slow. Last time I went a little slow, so I'm hopefully getting that to pop in here. And let's see if this can come in. Let's see. I'm just waiting for that initial one to kick off. Last time it took a little bit for us, and then we are good. Come on. Just waiting on our email. Of course, it's going to probably take me to click away. Let's see. Click away. There we go. I'm going to click back into it, and hopefully it started from that point. Maybe that's the trick. I just need to not look at it, right? There we go. There's our conditional check. I got my first email. Okay, here. This is the email that I got. Okay, there's my priority, all that good stuff. And let's take a look and see what happens next. I'm going to scroll down. Oh, already happened. It looks like Devin went in, and if I refresh my screen here for SharePoint, Devin went in, and there is our approval. There's our little check mark. I put in approved by Devin, and you could tell because the flow finished. There it is. Devin selected approve, and we're able to see that email with the buttons in it. And the email with options, it looks cool. It's got a little window, buttons underneath. There's actually 2 sets of buttons. It's the same ones. You select one, you choose the other, and it works great. And if you take a look here, that get manager, it should say Matt. Let's see. I passed in my ID. Who's my manager? It should say Matt Peterson. Let me scroll down. Look, there it is, Matt Peterson. There's the display name of the manager, email address. I can put that in there, given name. Perfect. That would be able to dynamically send it. If I pass that email in instead, send it to Matt instead of Devin, and we can have that. Now, you could do this with multiple people. You can send it to an Outlook group. If you're using the approvals connector, you can send it to 15 and say the first one to respond, or wait for all responses. You have a lot of options with approvals, just depending on which one you choose. Okay, so this is the email one is universally used because you can send to external users. So of course we want to make sure we could showcase that one so you could see a lot of different options for that. All right, so there we have it. That's that. Now, the final thing I want to do in our last 10 minutes or so that we have together is we now have these requests. Let's say I have 20 of them. Let's say I have 30 of them, whatever it might be. What I want to do is to be able to look at these requests and maybe once a week get an email or a message to me with a list of all of them so that I can see all of the requests that have been approved. All right, I need to go make these orders, or the ones that haven't been approved, or I can just see everything, every request that's been out there, not filtered down. I want to be able to get that all in a single email. Now, what happens with Power Automate is if we have multiple records on a table, it's going to do multiple emails because it creates something called a for each loop. So let me show you this real quick. This last piece here, I'm going to go back out to my previous page, and I'm going to create one more flow. Now, this one's going to work pretty quickly here because we're just going to see the data get stuff done. If I create a flow, okay, and by the way, thank you, Devin. Devin forwarded the email. Perfect. Thank you. There is that's what it looks like. Took a nice picture for it. That was the email forwarded. That's what it looks like for the send email with options. Thank you, Devin. Okay. If I come in here, I want to create one more flow. This is a scheduled cloud flow. I want to send email with all requests. And I want to send it during the week. I'll start it tomorrow at 10 a.m. And I want to choose it to be every Monday morning. So I'm going to choose repeat every 1 week on Mondays. And from here, what I can do is I can create a flow that runs at the schedule I design. Here's our scheduled workflow. Create a flow at this schedule. There's my recurrence. There's my schedule to go get all of the requests. If I want to put a filter, I can put a filter. If not, get all the requests and send me an email with a list of them in the body of the email. Now, what I can do here is add an action. And to get all of the requests, these are all individual items. What I need to do in Power Automate is quite simply get all of the items, all of them. Get items, everything on the list. So I can click here. And if I get the items, all of the rows on the table, I can point to my site address, my list name. Again, I'm using the same ones that we've been working with here. If I want to filter this down to only the approved or only the ones in the future, I can do that with an OData filter query. Okay. For right now, I'm just going to take a look at all of them. Get all of them. If I come in here and let's say I want to send an email to Devin or to Matt, my manager, and set it up for them so they can see all the upcoming requests. If I just go in and send email, and I come in, send an email, and I can choose the person. If I just put in the body, let's say I want to send an email in here and I want to include the title of the request. Watch what happens. I just click the word title. Automatically, we get a for each loop. For each item, for each request, send an email. I have 600. I'm getting 600 emails sent out. One for each row. Definitely don't want that. That's too much. I want them all in one. So what I need to do is I'll delete this for each for a second, is I want to create a way to get all of them in one email, just one, by creating something called an HTML table that can be passed in with HTML in our email. So if I search for HTML, I can do table. It's a data operation called literally create HTML table, where we can pass in multiple rows on a data source inside of an email. So create HTML table from our list of items. So I'm going to use my dynamic content and pull it from our list of items. That's all I have here. The perfect list of items. That's all of them. Then I can customize this by coming here and choosing our columns. And by doing this, I can customize the columns right here and say title, and then put in the title. I'm creating the table. I'm choosing which columns to show up in a nice little table. So I'll put in title. I'll put in description. add it here. I'm just going to make this nice and quick for us. So I'm just recreating a table. I'll put in our requester. Put in the requester here. And I'll put requester name. I could put more if I wanted, just by adding more in here. And now what I could do is send the whole table in an email. Even better, this table that comes in, it quite simply looks very plain. It just has title. It'll say description. It'll say requester. And then underneath, it'll just say all the words here, like this, whatever it is. And it just lists it row by row, row by row. It looks fine, but it's kind of hard to read sometimes because there's no columns, there's no borders, there's no background, there's just text. What we can do is we can actually customize this by using CSS, cascading style sheet, to customize our table design. So what I've given you here in our course files is a basic styling sheet for an HTML table. And you can come in here, and this is what it looks like. You can come in here, copy this, Control C, and then paste it into another data operation called a compose, which just takes inputs and creates outputs. It's just, you'll see it's like almost like a text box essentially. And if I put it into something called a compose, what we can do is compose our table. I like to think of it that way, by just passing in our styling. And you'll see here it's using some hex colors. You have some border, background colors, the width. Maybe I make this 100% of the window rather than 75%. You can change the alignments. You can change all these things. They're all fully customizable with a cascading style sheet. And from here, all I need to do is at the end of my style, put in my table. To put in my table, we take the dynamic content from our HTML table down here at the bottom and put in the output, just like that. And I could put in the output of this style, this table. I like to think, I always say it to myself that way, style the table. And now if I send an email, watch what we get. I'll just go ahead and send an email. And you can have a fully customized table designed for you. I'll send it to myself here. Enter that as custom value. I'll say, take a look at this table. And then all I need to do is put in the outputs of the compose. So we're putting this into this, this into this, just one at a time in this case. Dynamic content, the output of the compose here. Watch this. This is the table. I could put text in here and images and just like a regular email. This is just another piece of dynamic content. If I save and test this, look at this amazing table, and that can be fully customized. I put in some of our Pragmatic Works-ish colors in here. Okay. Get items. We could do some filtering here. That's what it says. I have a YouTube video on how to use that filter, so check that out. All I do is a test here. Watch what we get. We're just very quickly adding in some basic styling that you can customize. Take that styling for yourself. Put in your company colors. Put in your own font, your own design in there. Have some fun with it, and watch what it does. It's going to go through here. And there it goes. Send me an email and look at this table I now have in my email. It's responsive to the window size because I said go full 100%. And I have a table that I can embed in an email with my own custom header colors, font family style, border color, background color, width color, size, or width size, all that stuff you can design in an email so that every Monday, every Wednesday, you can send out reminders. These are the upcoming events. These are the outstanding requests. These are the things we need to accomplish this week, or this is what we accomplished last week by filtering this down. You can add in little filters to only choose certain rows or take everything, and you now have this automatic process happening for you each and every week. This, I can tell you right now, as a former teacher, this is something that I wish I had the ability to do. We used to take it from our grade book and try to send mass emails, this, that. I would love to see this. These are all the average grades for the last exam. or you can automatically just forward this or send this to administrators, send this to people for a presentation. These are the topics. This is the timing. Here's information about it. Boom. Here's our recap, whatever you need. And I can send it to one person, to a group of people, to many people, whatever I need. Set it up on a schedule and boom, it's there for us. So you can have this done and store this in an HTML page. It's an HTML table, so you can use anywhere HTML is accepted, you can use this. You can even convert this to a PDF if you need down the road. All here with Power Automate. So as we've gone through our time together here today, hopefully we've given you a nice rounded experience into working with Power Automate in the cloud so that you can see there's a lot of different use cases, a lot of different scenarios that we can build with so that you can set up a way, really make yourself and your team productive. Do what you're already doing now. You're probably doing all this on your own, but set it up so Power Automate can handle the heavy lifting for you. You can focus on everything else around you so you can be more productive that way. And come to us here at Pragmatic Works so we can help you level up your own skills so that you can do all this for yourself. Come take a boot camp, take our courses, take a check at our online stuff and our virtual mentoring so you can practice for yourself and see everything else in the future there. So I want to thank each and every one of you very, very much for joining me here today with our Learn with the Nerds. Please don't be a stranger. Come contact us, send us email, let us know here in the chat. If you have any questions, we'll do our very best to follow up. We will have a follow-up coming up next week, some Q&As here for you as well, so that we can help you just get a greater understanding of everything here with Power Automate. Thank you so much, everyone. See you next time.
Hey, Jonathan, 1 second. Hey, we want to give away a free license to our on-demand learning. So
Perfect. There we go.
Appreciate everyone joining us today. And let me go in here. What happens is you get rewarded based on your activity in the chat. So the more you chat, the more activity, the more interest you have. So let's throw this QR code, or not the QR code, the raffle up on the screen and see who is going to win an on-demand learning. It's a 12-month subscription, $495 value. And I'm going to go ahead and throw it up on the screen. Let's see who wins.
And
Sean Ash, congratulations.
Congratulations,
All
Sean.
Right. So,
That's
Sean,
awesome.
Send an email to marketing@pragmaticworks.com. Go ahead and send us a screenshot of your YouTube channel just so we can verify. We may have more than one Sean Ash, so let's go ahead and verify that. But the one other thing, Jonathan, is I want to remind people that next month is our special Intergalactic Learn with the Nerds Day. This is a huge event that we do here at Pragmatic Works once a year. And with this, we have a full day of content. So we'll have 8 sessions throughout the day. I think we have a hot wing challenge. We have a women in technology session. We're going to have Devin doing some Copilot and Power BI. Plus, we're going to talk a lot more about our Cert XP. I think you have a session too, where you're going to review some of the Power Platform certification exam stuff. So you don't want to miss that. That's next month on June 20th. You can use that QR code to register now and make sure that you're signed up. But it's going to be a great time, full day. And usually with the Intergalactic Learn with the Nerds Day, this month we're giving free access to all the Power Automate material for the weekend. With Intergalactic Learn with the Nerds Day, we lift everything, all the restrictions off of our on-demand learning platform and give you 24 hours of free access to everything. So you don't want to miss that. So with that, we're going to close out with our Intergalactic Learn with the Nerds Day promo and see you all again soon. So everyone, look forward to seeing you at the next Learn with the Nerds. Take care, everyone.